The way you think, speak, and show up tells the world who you are without you even trying. Most people want to be respected, listened to, and taken seriously. But let's be honest, no one ever sat us down and taught us how to think better, speak clearly, or influence without forcing anything. So we end up saying too much or saying nothing at all. And slowly we start shrinking, not because we're weak, but because we were never shown how to use our voice with purpose. This video is not just another motivational talk. It's a real, direct guide for anyone who's tired of being ignored, misunderstood, or stuck in their head. You'll learn how to train your thoughts, speak with calm confidence, and influence people in everyday situations without faking anything. This is real life. And this is how to think, speak, and influence like a pro. Stay with me. This could change how people see you and how you see yourself. Chapter 1. Train thinking patterns that drive strong influence. I want to speak to you as someone who has spent a lifetime watching people succeed and fail for very ordinary reasons. Success is not rare because it is complex. It is rare because most people do not train how they think. Influence begins long before you open your mouth. It starts in the quiet moments when nobody is watching and you are deciding what you believe about yourself and about life. Your thinking patterns are shaping every word you speak and every reaction people have to you. Every day your mind is having conversations with itself. Those conversations decide your confidence, your patience, your tone, and your choices. If your thinking is weak, your influence will always be weak, no matter how loud or polished your words sound. People do not follow words. They respond to certainty, clarity, and emotional control. Those qualities are born in the mind. Most people allow their thinking to run on habit. They think the same thoughts they thought last year and wonder why nothing changes. Influence requires intentional thinking. You must choose your thoughts instead of letting old fear, old doubt, or old anger choose for you. When your thinking improves, your presence changes. People feel it before you say anything. Strong influence starts with personal responsibility. Blaming others trains the mind to feel powerless. Taking responsibility trains the mind to look for solutions. When you train yourself to ask, "What can I control right now?" you immediately step into a position of strength. People trust those who take responsibility because they feel safe around someone who does not collapse under pressure. You also must train your mind to focus on long-term results instead of short-term comfort. Influence grows when your actions are consistent. Consistency comes from thinking beyond the moment. If your thinking is focused only on comfort, you will speak to please and act to avoid tension. That creates weak influence. When your thinking is focused on growth, you speak with honesty, even when it is uncomfortable. People may not agree with you, but they respect you. Another critical thinking pattern is learning to pause before reacting. Most people lose influence because they react too fast. Anger, fear, or pride rushes to the surface, and words come out that cannot be taken back. Training your thinking means creating space between emotion and response. That space gives you power. In that pause, you decide who you are going to be in that moment. Calm thinking produces calm speech. Calm speech produces trust. Your inner standards shape your influence. If your standard is low, your thinking becomes careless. Careless thinking leads to careless words. Set higher standards for how you think about problems, people, and pressure. Decide that excuses are no longer acceptable. Decide that clarity matters. Decide that growth is non-negotiable. When your standards rise, your thinking sharpens and people sense that you take life seriously. Another pattern to train is honest self-evaluation. Influence does not grow from pretending, it grows from awareness. When you can look at your habits and admit where you fall short, you gain control over your future. Weak thinkers defend their flaws. Strong thinkers correct them. When you correct your thinking, you correct your direction. Your thinking must also be grounded in reality, not wishful hope. Hope is powerful, but only when paired with discipline. Influence comes from reliability. Reliability comes from thinking clearly about effort, time, and consequences. When you think clearly, you do not promise what you cannot deliver. People trust those who match words with actions. You must also train your thinking to see people as individuals, not obstacles. Influence dies when you see conversations as battles. Influence grows when you see conversations as opportunities to understand. When your thinking shifts from winning to connecting, your words soften without losing strength. People open up when they feel respected. Confidence is another product of trained thinking. Confidence is not pretending you know everything. Confidence is trusting your ability to learn, adapt, and stay composed. When your thinking tells you that mistakes are part of growth, you stop fearing judgment. That freedom shows in your posture, voice, and presence. People are drawn to someone who is comfortable in their own skin. Your environment also shapes your thinking. What you listen to, watch, and repeat matters. If your mind is fed with negativity, it will produce doubt and irritation. Train your thinking by choosing better inputs. Read, listen, and reflect on ideas that challenge you to rise. Over time, your internal dialogue becomes stronger, more focused, and more encouraging. One of the most powerful thinking patterns is patience. Influence is not built in a single conversation. It is built over time through consistent behavior. When your thinking accepts that growth takes time, you stop forcing results. Forced influence feels heavy. Earned influence feels natural. People follow those who give them room to decide. You also must train your thinking to stay flexible. Stubborn thinking limits influence. Flexibility allows learning. When you can adjust your view without losing your values, people see maturity. That maturity earns respect. Respect is the foundation of influence. Another key is thinking in terms of value. Ask, how can I be useful here? Ask, what problem can I help solve? When your thinking is centered on contribution, your words carry weight. People listen to those who bring value, not noise. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about direction. Disciplined thinking keeps you focused on what matters. When distractions show up, disciplined thinking brings you back to purpose. Purpose-driven thinking creates steady influence because people sense direction. Fear is a natural part of growth, but it must not control your thinking. Train your mind to acknowledge fear without obeying it. Courage begins as a decision in the mind. Each time you act despite fear, you strengthen your influence over yourself. Self-influence always comes before influencing others. Your past does not define your thinking unless you allow it. Many people let past mistakes shape current confidence. Trained thinking learns from the past and then releases it. Growth requires forward focus. When your thinking stays forward, your energy rises and people feel hope around you. Clarity is another thinking skill. Confused thinking produces confused speech. Clear thinking produces simple, direct words. Simplicity is powerful. People trust clarity because it reduces stress. When you train your thinking to simplify problems, your influence grows naturally. You must also train your mind to expect resistance. Not everyone will agree with you. Influence does not require approval, it requires integrity. When your thinking is grounded in values, you remain steady even when challenged. That steadiness commands respect. Gratitude is also a thinking habit that strengthens influence. When your thinking notices progress instead of only problems, your attitude changes. People respond to positive, grounded energy. Gratitude keeps you balanced and approachable. Daily reflection is essential. At the end of the day, review how you thought, reacted, and spoke. This is not self-punishment, it is self-leadership. Each reflection sharpens awareness. Awareness leads to improvement. Improvement leads to influence. Your thinking must also respect time. Rushed thinking creates poor decisions. Give important thoughts the time they deserve. Slowing down mentally improves accuracy and tone. People trust those who think before they speak. Finally, understand this clearly. You do not influence others by chance. You influence them by design. Every strong communicator, every respected leader, trained their thinking long before they trained their voice. When you take control of your thinking, you take control of your future. Influence is not about control over others. It is about mastery over self. When your thoughts are disciplined, your words become intentional and your presence becomes powerful. People feel safe, guided, and inspired around someone who thinks clearly. Train your thinking daily. Guard it carefully. Feed it wisely. Challenge it often. Your thinking is the starting point of everything you will ever become and everything you will ever influence. Chapter 2. Speak with intention. People feel immediately. Words are never neutral. The moment you speak, something happens in the room. People feel your tone before they understand your message. They sense your certainty or your doubt instantly. That is why speaking with intention is not about sounding smart. It is about being clear, honest, and present. When intention is missing, words drift. When intention is strong, words land. Most people talk without deciding why they are talking. They fill silence. They explain too much. They defend themselves before anyone attacks. That kind of speech weakens influence. Intentional speech begins before the first word. It starts with a quiet decision inside. Why am I speaking right now? What do I want this moment to become? When you answer that question, your voice changes naturally. People respond to purpose. They can feel when someone knows what they are trying to say. Even simple words carry weight when spoken with direction. You do not need volume or clever phrases. You need clarity. Clear intention removes hesitation. Hesitation makes people uneasy. Confidence settles the room. Speaking with intention also means choosing when not to speak. Silence used well builds authority. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every opinion needs a response. When you speak less but mean more, people listen more closely. They sense discipline. Discipline creates respect. Tone matters more than content. You can say the right words with the wrong tone and lose trust instantly. Intention shapes tone. When your intention is to connect, your voice softens without losing strength. When your intention is to help, your words slow down. When your intention is to lead, your voice becomes steady. People follow steadiness. Many people confuse honesty with carelessness. Intentional speech is honest without being reckless. You can be direct and still be human. You can correct without humiliating. You can disagree without disrespect. People feel when your intention is to build, not to win. Words spoken with intention are grounded. They do not rush. They do not wander. They do not try to impress. They serve a purpose. That purpose gives your speech direction. Direction creates confidence. Confidence invites trust. One of the strongest intentions you can carry into speech is respect. When people feel respected, they open up. They listen instead of preparing to defend themselves. Respect shows in how you pause, how you listen, and how you respond. It shows when you allow others to finish their thoughts. That alone separates leaders from noise. Intentional speech also requires awareness of emotion. If you speak while angry, your words may be accurate, but they will be rejected. Emotion leaks into tone, even when words sound calm. Taking a moment to settle yourself before speaking protects your message. Calm intention creates calm reception. Another key is alignment. What you say must match who you are. People sense inconsistency immediately. When words do not match behavior, influence disappears. Intentional speech is rooted in truth. Truth spoken calmly carries strength without force. Many people speak to protect their image. That creates tension. Intentional speakers speak to solve problems. Problem-focused speech lowers resistance. People lean in when they feel progress is possible. You must also consider timing. The right words at the wrong time fail. Intention includes awareness of the moment. Is this the time to teach or the time to listen? Is this the time to push or the time to pause? Good timing makes simple words powerful. Intentional speech avoids unnecessary detail. Long explanations dilute impact. When you know your intention, you naturally simplify. Simple language reaches more people. Complexity often hides uncertainty. Simplicity shows confidence. Another powerful intention is clarity. Confused speech creates confusion. Clear speech reduces stress. When people understand you, they relax. Relaxed people listen better. Listening creates connection. Your pace also communicates intention. Rushed speech signals anxiety. Slow, steady speech signals control. Control builds authority. Authority does not demand attention, it earns it. Intentional speech also includes body awareness. Your posture, eye contact, and breathing support your words. When your body is aligned with your intention, your message feels real. People trust what feels real. Avoid speaking from habit. Habitual phrases weaken impact. Fresh, intentional words feel alive. They engage attention. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. Another important intention is service. Ask how your words can help this moment. Advice given to serve feels supportive. Advice given to impress feels heavy. People reject heavy words. Listening is part of intentional speech. When you listen fully, your response becomes precise. Precision increases influence. Guessing leads to misunderstanding. Intentional speakers do not argue to prove intelligence. They speak to move things forward. Progress-focused speech keeps conversations productive. Productive conversations build reputation. Be mindful of emotional triggers. When someone challenges you, intentional speech keeps ego out. Ego-driven words escalate tension. Purpose-driven words lower it. Intentional speech also respects boundaries. Not every truth needs to be said immediately. Wisdom chooses what to say and what to hold. Holding words at the right time shows maturity. Another intention worth training is encouragement. Encouragement is not flattery, it is recognition. People perform better when they feel seen. Intentional encouragement lifts energy without exaggeration. Consistency matters. When your tone and message are stable over time, people trust your presence. Inconsistency creates doubt. Doubt weakens influence. Intentional speech also involves preparation. Important conversations deserve thought. Preparation sharpens focus. Focus reduces mistakes. Mistakes in speech cost trust. Speak from experience, not from theory. Real words carry weight. People connect to authenticity. Authenticity cannot be faked. It comes from intention. Intentional speech avoids blaming language. Blame creates resistance. Responsibility creates cooperation. Choose words that invite ownership, not defense. Ask questions with purpose. Questions guide thinking. Good questions show interest. Interest builds rapport. Avoid speaking to fill silence. Silence allows reflection. Reflection deepens understanding. Understanding strengthens connection. When you speak with intention, your presence changes. People feel grounded around you. Grounded energy calms rooms. Intentional speech also means knowing when to stop. Ending clearly leaves impact. Rambling weakens endings. Your words shape how people experience you. That experience becomes your reputation. Reputation opens or closes doors. Practice speaking with intention daily. Notice how people respond. Adjust without judging yourself. Every conversation is training. Each word is a choice. When intention leads your speech, people feel it immediately. They may not analyze it, but they respond to it. That response is influence. Influence built on intention lasts. It grows quietly. It earns trust over time. Speak less, mean more. Be present, be clear, be human. That is how words become power without force.
Chapter 3. Shape conversations by controlling inner reactions. When a conversation begins, it's not just about words, it's about energy, emotion, and presence. Most of the time, what shapes the direction of a conversation isn't what's said first, it's what happens inside you right before you respond. Your inner reaction determines your tone, your pace, your choice of words, and whether the other person feels safe, judged, heard, or dismissed. That's why mastering your inner state is the foundation of powerful communication. You don't shape conversations by dominating them, you shape them by staying calm when it matters most. People often think that being a strong communicator is about having quick answers or sharp comebacks. But true influence doesn't come from speed. It comes from stability. When your mind stays steady, your message becomes stronger. Every interaction has the potential to build trust or break it, and your inner reaction is often the deciding factor. When emotions take over, words lose their direction, but when you manage what you feel inside, your words serve a real purpose. Controlling inner reactions doesn't mean pretending you don't feel anything. It means noticing what you feel and choosing what to do with it. That awareness gives you a split second of power. That moment is everything. Most people speak from their first emotional impulse, anger, fear, embarrassment, or pride. But impulse-driven responses create regret. Controlled responses create respect. The people who shape conversations, vowels, have trained themselves to pause, not a long pause, but long enough to check in with themselves. They breathe, they assess, they decide, they ask themselves one simple question: what does this moment need? That question takes them out of their ego and into their purpose. And that shift changes the conversation entirely. You will face moments when someone says something that triggers you. Maybe it feels disrespectful, maybe it touches a sensitive part of your past. Maybe it sounds like a challenge. And in that moment, your body will react. You'll feel tension in your chest. Your hands may tighten, your thoughts might race, but that is not the time to speak. That is the time to slow down inside. Even just noticing what you're feeling starts to calm the intensity. Inner control is not silence. It's leadership over your own emotion. And when you lead yourself well, you earn the ability to guide others. The reason many conversations turn negative isn't because people mean harm, it's because they lose control over themselves. One defensive comment creates another, and soon the conversation becomes a battle. When one person stays calm, the dynamic changes. You don't feed the fire, you cool it down. And from that place, you can direct the conversation somewhere meaningful. To build that control, you need awareness. Start noticing how your body reacts when things get tense. Pay attention to what thoughts start running through your head. Observe without judging, just see it clearly. That self-awareness builds emotional muscle. Over time, you'll be able to notice the reaction without letting it run the show. You also need to practice breathing. Not deep breathing in the middle of chaos, but steady breathing throughout your day. The more you train your breath, the more natural it becomes to stay grounded. When your breath is steady, Your voice stays even. People feel more secure around someone whose tone doesn't shift with every mood. Controlling inner reactions also means letting go of the need to win. Many people speak to prove something. They want to be right. They want the last word. They want to protect their image. But when you focus on winning, you lose connection. Conversations are not competition. They are opportunities. When you shift from proving to understanding, everything softens. You're not speaking to beat someone. You're speaking to understand them and be understood. That's when real influence begins. Sometimes the best way to shape a conversation is to let someone speak without interruption. If you're reacting internally while they talk, planning your response, defending yourself in your head, you're not listening. And when you don't listen, your words lose relevance. Inner stillness helps you listen without jumping ahead. It helps you hear what's really being said, not just how it makes you feel. You can also guide conversations through the questions you ask. But to ask good questions, you need to be emotionally steady. A reactive question sounds like an attack. A calm question sounds like curiosity. The way you ask is just as important as what you ask. When your inner state is grounded, your tone invites openness. And when people feel invited, they open up. Another part of inner control is choosing what not to react to. Not every comment needs a response. Some things are said out of stress or misunderstanding. If you react to every slight, you stay on the defensive. But when you choose your battles, your words gain weight. People notice that you don't get pulled into drama. That creates quiet influence. Controlling your inner world also means preparing before important conversations. Don't just plan your points. Prepare your mindset. Remind yourself why the conversation matters. Decide who you want to be during the interaction. That preparation helps you stay centered even when things get tense. Without preparation, your emotions can hijack the moment. There will be times when you feel hurt or frustrated during a conversation. That's natural, but that feeling doesn't need to turn into action. You can feel the heat and still stay cool. That self-control is a form of power. Real, grounded power. It doesn't shout, it doesn't prove, it just stays present and clear. People remember how they felt after talking to you. If you were steady and kind, even in disagreement, they feel respected. That feeling becomes part of your influence. It's not about charm or personality, it's about emotional maturity. And emotional maturity shows up most when things don't go your way. Shaping conversations isn't about pushing others. It's about managing yourself so that others feel safe to open up. It's about showing that you can handle discomfort without losing your values. It's about staying in the driver's seat of your emotions, even when the road gets bumpy. Practice this every day. In small interactions. When someone cuts you off. When a message annoys you. When a plan changes, notice how your body reacts. Practice softening your shoulders, breathing deeper, speaking slower. These small acts train your nervous system to respond instead of react. The more you do this, the more trust you build. Not just with others, but with yourself. You'll begin to trust your own presence. You'll know that no matter what's said, you don't have to lose control. That belief gives you freedom, and that freedom gives you power. You don't have to raise your voice to be strong. You don't have to win arguments to have influence. You don't have to speak fast to seem smart. You just have to manage what's happening inside you. When you do, your words carry more meaning. Your energy becomes more focused. Your presence becomes more calming. And people notice. They may not say it, but they feel it. They respond to it. They return to it, because in a world full of noise, the person who stays calm stands out. The person who controls their inner world becomes someone others trust to lead. That's how you shape conversations, not by speaking louder, but by leading yourself first. Chapter 4. Build authority through calm, confident expression. Authority is not something you demand. It's something people feel when they're around you. It doesn't come from a loud voice or a long title. It comes from the way you carry yourself, the steadiness in your tone, and the clarity in your message. When you speak with calm confidence, people stop and pay attention, not because they're forced to, but because they trust you know what you're saying and who you are. That trust is what builds authority. Most people try too hard to look confident. They rush their words, over-explain, or try to sound more important than they feel. But real confidence doesn't try to impress. It doesn't need to push. It doesn't need to fill every silence. It's quiet, grounded, and sure. And when confidence is expressed calmly, it becomes powerful. People don't just hear your words, they feel your presence. That presence tells them you're someone worth listening to. You build authority when you stop chasing attention. When you speak to serve and not to be seen, your energy shifts. There's no tension in your voice, no need to prove anything, no need to dominate the room. Calm confidence says, I know my value and I don't need to shout about it. That energy earns respect without trying to take it. One of the ways you express calm confidence is by slowing down. When you rush, you signal nervousness. When you speak with steady pace, people believe you're in control. A calm voice creates space. It allows others to process your message without feeling pressured. It invites them in rather than pushing them away. And in that space, your words gain strength. You don't have to speak often to build authority. In fact, the less you say, the more weight your words carry if they're clear and true. People watch your reactions. They notice if you stay composed when things go wrong. They observe how you treat others, especially when nobody's watching. Authority is built quietly, in moments when you choose restraint over reaction, direction over distraction, presence over panic. To build calm, confident expression, you have to trust yourself. That trust doesn't come from pretending. It comes from preparation, from learning, from reflection, and from experience. When you've done the work, you don't need to overcompensate. You can just show up and speak simply. That simplicity is not weakness, it's strength. And people recognize it. A calm person in a loud world stands out, not because they speak louder, but because they don't get pulled into chaos. They bring clarity into confusion. They bring order into noise. When you walk into a room and your energy is steady, people lean in. They want to hear what you have to say, because they trust you're not going to waste their time or speak without reason. Confidence is not about having all the answers. It's about being okay with not knowing everything. When someone asks a question you don't have the answer to, and you can say, I'm not sure, but I'll find out without flinching, you earn respect. That honesty shows strength. That calm tone shows maturity, and that willingness to keep learning makes your authority grow even more. You also express calm confidence through your posture. The way you sit, stand, and hold yourself speaks before you ever open your mouth. If your body looks tense, your words will sound unsure. But if your body is relaxed and upright, your message will land differently. You're not trying to take up space, you're holding your space with purpose. There's a difference between being loud and being firm. Loud voices often come from insecurity. Firm voices come from certainty. When you speak with a firm tone that's steady and grounded, people listen more closely. They sense that you've thought about what you're saying, that you're not just reacting, you're leading the moment. Authority also comes from how you treat people when they challenge you. If you snap, blame, or talk over others, you lose credibility. But if you stay calm, stay respectful, and stay focused, you show that pressure doesn't shake you. And people respect those who stay balanced when things get uncomfortable. You don't have to use complicated words to sound smart. In fact, using simple, clear language shows more confidence than hiding behind big vocabulary. Speak in a way that a teenager could understand and you'll reach more people. Authority isn't about sounding advanced. It's about making others feel clear and grounded after they talk to you. Being calm also helps you listen. And the best communicators are not just good speakers, they are excellent listeners. Listening deeply allows you to understand what others need. And when you respond with empathy and insight, people feel seen. That feeling builds trust, and trust builds authority. You should also pay attention to consistency. If you say one thing and do another, your calm words lose meaning. But if your actions match your speech, people begin to see you as dependable. They see that your calmness isn't a show, it's a way of living. That's the kind of authority that doesn't fade with time. Being calm doesn't mean being passive. It means choosing when to act and how to respond. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It means using your voice to move things forward, not just to fill space. Every word you speak should be rooted in purpose. That kind of speech creates respect, not just attention. You also build authority by staying focused on what matters. Don't chase every opinion. Don't let distractions pull you into debates that don't align with your value. Calm confidence is selective. It doesn't get lost in noise. It stays centered and speaks only when something needs to be said. When people feel anxious or uncertain, they look for someone who looks steady. Be that person. Be the one who doesn't flinch under pressure. Be the one who can hold a conversation without getting defensive. Be the one who keeps their tone clear even when emotions are high. That's how you become the trusted voice in the room. Practice calm confidence in your daily life, not just in big meetings or important talks, but in everyday moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic, stay cool. When plans change suddenly, breathe before reacting. When you're misunderstood, speak clearly without blame. Every small moment is a chance to train your voice and strengthen your presence. It takes time. You won't master it in a day. But every time you choose calm over chaos, you're building something powerful. You're building a reputation. You're building trust. You're building the kind of influence that lasts. Authority doesn't come from control. It comes from self-control. It doesn't need to overpower, it simply needs to be consistent, honest, and grounded. And the more you practice calm, confident expression, the more people will look to you not just for answers, but for direction. So keep showing up with clarity. Keep speaking with purpose. Keep choosing presence over pressure. That's how you grow into someone people respect, someone they listen to, and someone they follow. Because they know you don't just talk strong. You live strong, and they feel it every time you speak. Chapter 5. Align thoughts, words and actions daily. Who you are is not decided by your words alone. It's decided by the quiet alignment between what you think, what you say, and what you do. Most people struggle not because they don't have good ideas or intentions, but because their actions do not match their words, and their words do not reflect their real thoughts. This disconnect creates confusion, stress, and a loss of trust, both in the eyes of others and within themselves. When your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, you live with a sense of clarity and purpose. People take you seriously, you take yourself seriously, and your life starts to feel solid, not scattered. The truth is, your mind is always shaping your life. Every word you speak begins as a thought. Every action you take is influenced by what you believe. If your thoughts are unclear, your words will be weak. If your words are inconsistent, your actions will lose direction. And when that happens, influence disappears. Trust fades. Confidence drops. And life feels heavier than it should. Daily alignment starts with awareness. You have to know what you're thinking throughout the day. If your mind is filled with doubt, fear, or excuses, you will speak and act in ways that reflect that. You might promise things you don't believe in. You might say yes when you mean no. You might avoid action because your thoughts are tangled. So the first step is to slow down and pay attention to your inner dialogue. What are you saying to yourself when no one else is listening? Is it honest? Is it helpful? Is it moving you forward? If your thoughts are driven by fear, your words will sound hesitant. If your thoughts are full of blame, your actions will feel like avoidance. But when your thinking is honest and clear, when it's focused on growth, truth, and responsibility, your words become solid, your choices become steady, and people can feel that. Alignment is not perfection. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about being real. It's about meaning what you say and following through with what you promise. It's about living in a way that you don't have to hide anything. There's a kind of quiet power in that. You can walk into any room and speak with confidence because you know you've been living your message, not just talking about it. There's nothing more exhausting than saying one thing and doing another. That kind of split creates stress. It drains your energy. It keeps you in a cycle of regret and overthinking. But when your actions reflect your true thoughts and your words stay true to what you believe, you feel peace. You feel strong even in difficult situations because you're not pretending. You're being consistent, and that consistency becomes your foundation. Each morning, check in with yourself. Ask, what do I believe about today? Then ask, do my words and actions reflect that belief? If you believe in growth, speak about effort. If you believe in honesty, tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. If you believe in leadership, take responsibility without waiting to be asked. It's not enough to think something. It has to show up in your behavior. People may not remember every word you say, but they remember how closely your words matched your actions. That's what makes someone believable. That's what makes someone trustworthy. Anyone can talk about change, but the ones who change their habits earn respect. Anyone can talk about commitment, but the ones who show up daily become the example. Your habits reveal your alignment. If you think discipline matters but you keep breaking promises to yourself, something needs to shift. If you believe in health but ignore your choices, there's a gap. That gap is not something to feel ashamed of. It's something to take responsibility for. Every time you bring your behavior closer to your beliefs, you strengthen your identity. You become someone you can count on. And that's where lasting confidence comes from. Alignment also brings clarity to your relationships. When people know what you stand for and see you live by it, they trust you. They know you won't say one thing to their face and another behind their back. They know you won't promise something just to look good. You become someone they can rely on, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. When you align your thoughts, words, and actions, life becomes simpler. You don't have to remember what you told people, because you're always telling the truth. You don't have to create a version of yourself for every situation, because you've built one steady version you live by every day. That doesn't mean you don't grow. It means your growth is real, not performed. This kind of alignment must be practiced daily. It doesn't happen once and stay forever. Every day brings new choices. Every day tests your values. You will be tempted to say things you don't mean to avoid discomfort. You will feel pressure to act out of fear rather than integrity. And in those moments, you get to choose. Will you react from habit, or will you respond from alignment? It takes courage to live aligned. It's easier to say the popular thing than to speak the truth. It's easier to go along with the crowd than to stand firm in what you believe. But alignment is not about ease. It's about strength. And when you live from that place, your presence becomes more powerful than any speech. Take time every evening to review your day. Did your actions reflect your values? Did your words reflect your real thoughts? Where did you hold back? Where did you push forward? This kind of reflection sharpens your awareness and guides your next day. You begin to live with more honesty, not just with others, but with yourself. The people who change lives are not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who live the message. Their actions say what their mouths don't need to repeat. Their choices teach more than any lecture. That's what alignment looks like in real life. Quiet consistency, steady presence, words backed by behavior. If you want to influence others, start by influencing yourself. Align what you think with what you say, and let your actions close the gap. That kind of integrity builds a life that feels good to live. Not perfect, but real. Not flashy, but grounded. And in a world full of noise, a person who lives this way becomes someone others follow, without being asked. So take this seriously. Every day is a chance to practice. Not once in a while. Not only when it's easy. Every single day. In the little choices. In the uncomfortable moments. In the quiet spaces where nobody is watching. That's where alignment is built. And once it's built, it becomes something you carry with you in every conversation, every decision, every challenge. You don't need more motivation. You need more alignment. The more honest you are with yourself, the more your life will begin to reflect who you really are. Not a version made for approval. Not a version made for safety. A version made from truth. That is where power lives. And that is where your best life begins. Chapter 6. Read human behavior before responding verbally. Communication is not just about talking. It's about knowing when to speak, how to speak, and most importantly, what to respond to. People show you everything you need to know before they ever say a word. Their body language, their eyes, the way they move their hands, the speed of their breathing. It all tells a story, but most people miss it. They rush to speak, eager to say what's on their mind, without understanding what's happening in front of them. And that's where influence gets lost. If you want to connect, lead and communicate with impact, you must learn to observe human behavior before you open your mouth. Reading behavior is about attention, not judgment. You're not trying to label people, you're trying to understand what they're feeling, what they're avoiding, and what they're hoping for in that moment. When you pay attention to people, not just their words, but their behavior, you get access to something most never see: what they actually need. Responding based on needs instead of assumptions is what separates surface-level talk from meaningful influence. When someone is speaking, their body speaks first. Are they leaning in or pulling back? Are their arms crossed tightly or resting openly? Are their eyes darting or focused? These details matter. They tell you if the person feels safe or guarded, open or resistant, calm or pressured. If you miss these signals and just reply with a generic answer or a rehearsed point, you risk saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. But if you respond based on what they show you, your words land more deeply. They feel seen. Human behavior is shaped by emotions, and emotions aren't always visible on the surface. Someone may sound calm but be holding back frustration. Another person may speak confidently but carry anxiety underneath. You can't rely on tone alone. You have to look at the full picture. How are they standing? What are they doing with their hands? How often are they blinking? These cues offer real-time feedback. They reveal what's going on inside. To build this skill, slow down. Before jumping into a reply, pause and observe. What's the energy of the moment? Is the person ready to listen, or are they still processing what they just said? Is this a moment for advice, or just a space for listening? Speaking too early can shut people down, but reading first allows you to match your response to what's needed. This doesn't mean overthinking. It means being present. When you're fully in the moment, you don't need to guess. You see more. But if your mind is busy preparing a response while the other person is talking, you miss everything. You miss their shifts in posture. You miss the hesitation in their voice. You miss the discomfort in their expression. And when you miss that, you respond from habit, not from awareness. People rarely say exactly what they mean. They speak in ways that protect themselves. They leave out details. They soften truths. They avoid saying something directly out of fear of how it will be received. Your job is not to demand that they speak perfectly. Your job is to notice what they're trying to say without putting pressure on them. When someone feels understood without having to explain everything, they feel safer around you, and that safety becomes the doorway to real communication. Reading behavior also helps you manage difficult conversations. When emotions run high, words become less useful, but behavior becomes louder. If someone is closing off, becoming more defensive, or reacting with short answers, your words need to shift too. This is not the time to argue or convince. It's the time to listen deeper and lower the intensity of your presence. When you adjust your tone and pace to match what they need, you calm the moment instead of adding to it. Another benefit of reading behavior is knowing when silence is more powerful than speaking. If someone is reflecting, don't interrupt. Let the silence work. If they're uncomfortable, don't fill the space with noise. Wait until they show signs they're ready to receive what you have to say. The best communicators know that timing matters, and timing is impossible to get right if you're not watching carefully. Every person carries patterns. Some people speak fast when nervous. Others smile when they feel exposed. Some avoid eye contact when they're being honest. Some laugh to hide tension. Learning to recognize these patterns helps you lead conversations with more empathy and skill. You're not just reacting to what was said, you're responding to the person behind the words. This kind of awareness takes practice. It starts by observing without rushing to respond. In everyday conversations, start noticing, how does your friend sit when they're relaxed versus when they're upset? What happens to someone's voice when they're uncomfortable? How does someone act when they're not ready to talk? These little observations build your emotional radar. Over time, you begin to see people more clearly, and that makes your communication much more precise. Influence is not about being the loudest voice, it's about being the most aware one. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen, not studied, not analyzed, just seen. And to help someone feel seen, you must pay attention to more than what they say. You must pay attention to what they show you. It's also important to recognize your own behavior while reading others. If you tense up when someone speaks, they'll notice. If you lean forward too aggressively, they may pull back. If your arms are crossed or your face looks disinterested, they may shut down before the conversation begins. Your body is always speaking to. The more aware you become of your own presence, the more skilled you'll be at managing the presence of others. This is not manipulation. It's awareness. It's learning to show up for people in ways that create openness instead of tension. When you respond with understanding, not assumption, people feel respected. They listen more. They share more. They remember you not just for what you said, but for how you made them feel safe and heard. If you want to build real influence, master the skill of seeing what's not being said. Look for discomfort. Look for tension. Look for hesitation. And then speak with sensitivity, with timing, and with calm confidence. Your message will have more depth. Your relationships will grow stronger, and your presence will carry weight. Each day you'll get better at this. With practice, it will become part of how you move through the world. You'll become the kind of communicator people trust, not because you always say the perfect thing, but because you always say the right thing for the moment. And that comes not from talking more, but from observing better. So don't rush to be heard. First watch, first feel, first understand. Then speak with purpose, not pressure. That is how true connection is built. That is how communication becomes meaningful. And that is how you grow into a person whose words actually reach the hearts of others.
Chapter 7. Influence decisions by managing emotional signals. Every decision a person makes is emotional first, then logical second. People like to think they decide with reason, but in real life it's emotion that drives the first move. They choose based on what feels safe, what feels right, what feels exciting, or what feels urgent. That's why if you want to influence people in a real way, you need to understand the emotional signals you're sending through your tone, your presence, your face, your timing, and your energy. People may not always remember what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel right before they made a decision. When someone's deciding something, whether it's to trust you, follow your lead, buy your product, or open up to your advice, they are watching you closely. They're feeling your signals. They're paying attention to whether you feel rushed or calm, confident or unsure, genuine or performative. These signals matter. They are shaping the atmosphere of the moment, and that atmosphere is either helping or hurting their ability to say yes. To manage emotional signals, you need to be aware of what you're giving off without realizing it. Are your eyes focused and engaged, or are they distracted and distant? Is your voice steady, or does it carry tension? Are your hands restless or open? These small things tell people if you are secure or if you are faking it. When your signals are consistent with calm, clarity, and confidence, people lean in. When your signals are scattered or uneasy, people hesitate. People rarely say, "I don't trust your signals," but that's exactly what's happening when they resist. They may say, "I need time," or "let me think about it," but underneath that is a feeling that something doesn't sit right. That feeling usually comes from the emotional cues they're receiving. When your emotional signals are clear and steady, the decision feels easier for them. They don't feel pressure. They feel understanding. Influence is not about pushing people to decide faster. It's about creating the kind of space where their decision feels safe. That safety is built through emotional presence. If you show up anxious, needy, or desperate for an outcome, it leaks into your words, even if your words sound good. But if you show up calm, open, and ready to accept whatever decision they make, that creates a different kind of pressure, one that feels like freedom. You can also manage emotional signals by being aware of what the other person is feeling. If they're nervous, you don't need to speak louder. You need to soften your approach. If they're overwhelmed, simplify your message. If they're guarded, don't force anything. Adapt your presence to the energy of the moment. This shows emotional intelligence, and people respect that deeply. It's not about controlling anyone. It's about creating emotional alignment. When your emotional tone matches what the other person needs, your influence grows naturally. They don't feel manipulated. They feel support, and people are much more likely to say yes when they feel emotionally supported, not just intellectually convinced. Another part of managing emotional signals is being honest. People can tell when you're performing.
If you pretend to care just to get what you want, it shows. Even if they can't explain why, they'll pull away. But when your signals come from a place of real intention to help, to support, to lead, to serve, they trust it. And trust is what moves decisions forward. Sometimes influence means knowing when to pause. If the person you're speaking to looks unsure or emotionally unsettled, give them space. A short silence can help someone catch up to the moment. Filling every second with words creates pressure. Holding space shows confidence. It also signals that you are okay with their pace, and that you're not trying to force anything. The best influencers read the room without losing themselves. They stay grounded in their purpose, but flexible in their approach. They know how to adjust their tone, their speed, and even their posture to match what the person needs to feel understood. These subtle shifts matter more than polished words, because decisions aren't just made in the mind, they're made in the heart, in the gut, in the emotional space we create with others. One of the most powerful emotional signals you can send is belief. When you deeply believe in what you're saying or offering, it shows. Your eyes reflect it, your posture reflects it. Your tone becomes more natural. You don't need to memorize lines, you just speak from a place of clarity and commitment. That energy is contagious. People feel your certainty and borrow it to make their own decisions. It's also important to notice how you respond to resistance. If someone pushes back and you react defensively, your emotional signals say, "I can't handle challenge." But if you stay steady and curious, your signals say, "I respect your voice." That message is what keeps the conversation open. Defensive energy closes doors. Composed energy keeps them open. Managing emotional signals also means controlling your expectations. If you walk into a conversation already needing a yes, your energy becomes tight. But if you walk in ready to serve, to listen, and to understand, without needing a specific outcome, you create a freer space. And in that freedom, people often move toward you. Don't underestimate the emotional power of your voice. It doesn't need to be loud, it needs to be certain. When your voice is clear and slow, it builds calm. When your tone is sharp or rushed, it creates pressure. The voice is a mirror of the nervous system. The more relaxed and focused you are, the more others will trust you, even if they don't say it out loud. Influencing decisions also means recognizing timing. Emotional readiness matters. Sometimes the person isn't ready to decide, not because they don't want to, but because their emotional state hasn't caught up. Don't push, instead create conditions that allow clarity to rise. Ask thoughtful questions. Reflect what you're hearing. Offer reassurance without overpromising. These are emotional tools, not tactics. They come from care, not control. If you feel the urge to push someone into a decision, pause. Ask yourself why. Is it about helping them, or is it about needing approval or outcome? That self-check matters, because your inner state always leaks into the room. If you are calm and rooted, your energy supports their clarity. If you are anxious and needy, your energy clouds their thinking. Influence built on emotional awareness is lasting. It doesn't require pressure. It earns decisions through presence, understanding, and timing. The person you're speaking to should feel more clear, more empowered, and more respected after engaging with you, not more confused or stressed. That is the sign that you've managed your signals well. This is not something that happens by chance. It's a daily practice. It's something you get better at every time you enter a conversation, with the intention to listen more, watch more, and respond with less ego. The more you tune in to what people are showing you emotionally, the more your responses become meaningful, and the more your words align with the needs of the moment, the more powerful your influence becomes. You don't need a title to influence people. You don't need fancy words or tricks. What you need is presence. What you need is the ability to regulate yourself while reading others clearly. What you need is to master the emotional tone you bring into a room, because people don't follow perfection, they follow connection. They follow someone who understands how to manage themselves while guiding others forward with empathy and strength.
Chapter 8. Strengthen presence through disciplined self-control. Presence is not about being noticed. It's about being remembered for the right reasons. It's not the volume of your voice or the space you take up. It's the feeling you leave in the room after you speak, or even after you say nothing. The most powerful kind of presence doesn't come from trying to impress. It comes from deep inner discipline, from self-control, from showing up with intention, awareness, and stability. That's what people remember. That's what makes others trust you, respect you, and want to follow your lead. Most people try to build presence from the outside in. They work on how they look, how they stand, how they speak, and those things do matter, but they only work when what's happening inside is aligned. You can't fake presence. You might grab attention for a moment, but you won't hold it. Real presence starts with self-mastery. It's built through the way you carry yourself when no one is watching, and how you respond when things don't go your way. Disciplined self-control isn't about holding back who you are. It's about holding together who you are. It's about staying composed when you could fall apart. It's about thinking clearly when pressure shows up. It's about being able to pause instead of react. Those moments define your presence. People can feel when you are centered. They feel calm around you. They trust your decisions. They believe in your words, not because they sound perfect, but because they come from someone who leads themselves first. Self-control means saying no to things that weaken your focus. It's about choosing not to speak when the ego wants to prove something. It's about breathing before you reply, especially when you feel triggered. These may sound like small things, but they shape everything. In every room there's someone who brings clarity and steadiness. That person usually isn't the loudest. They're the one who can manage their energy. They can sit with discomfort without trying to escape it. They can listen without needing to dominate. That's presence. When you walk into a room and you're not chasing approval, you change the atmosphere. People notice your stillness. They notice that you're not easily moved by drama or distraction. You don't overreact. You don't explain yourself unnecessarily. You know who you are, and it shows, not in what you say, but in how you show up. That level of presence is built through thousands of quiet decisions. It's trained, not gifted. You build self-control by choosing structure over chaos. That means keeping your word even when it's inconvenient. That means holding yourself accountable for your tone, your choices, your behavior, especially when no one's clapping for it. Discipline is not about being strict for the sake of it. It's about building the kind of inner world that doesn't fall apart when life gets noisy. When you live like that, your presence becomes a steady anchor, not a drifting voice. People feel safer around those who are disciplined. Why? Because they can trust your emotions won't take over a conversation. They can trust you won't make promises you can't keep. They can trust you won't crumble the moment someone disagrees with you. That trust is earned by controlling your inner state, not pretending to be calm, but actually choosing calm when you're tempted to do the opposite. When your mood no longer controls your message, that's a major shift in presence. Anyone can sound wise when they're in a good mood, but real presence shows up when things feel uncertain. When plans break down, when people let you down, when emotions rise. In those moments, self-control is your edge. You don't let temporary emotion decide permanent outcomes. You breathe, you wait, you respond when you're ready, not just when you're angry. That discipline makes people listen to you differently. They lean in, not because you demand it, but because you've earned it.
You also grow your presence by mastering your time and energy. If you're constantly distracted, constantly pulled in every direction, your presence becomes weak. You're physically there but mentally scattered. Disciplined people protect their focus. They don't just show up, they show up with attention. And attention is rare. Most people are halfway in the room, halfway in their phone, halfway in their thoughts. But when you're fully there, clear, grounded, alert, people notice. That's presence. Even your silence becomes powerful when it comes from self-control. When you don't rush to fill the air, when you listen all the way to the end, when you choose to say less, but mean more. That kind of silence is not passive. It's active. It's intentional. It says, I'm not here to react. I'm here to lead. And that message is stronger than any speech. Self-control also shows in how you handle success. Some people lose their balance the moment they win. They get loud, reckless, or overly emotional. But those who have trained discipline stay humble. They don't let praise change their principle. They keep doing the work with the same focus and clarity as before. That steadiness builds a reputation you don't have to explain. It speaks for itself. You don't need to control others to build presence. You only need to control yourself. The more you manage your thoughts, your tone, your attention, and your behavior, the stronger your presence becomes. People trust those who are in control of themselves. Not perfect, not cold, just clear, steady, honest, reliable. This doesn't mean you should suppress how you feel. It means you choose how to express it. Emotional maturity is about expression, not suppression. It's knowing that feelings are real, but they don't have to run your life. You can feel frustrated without being rude. You can feel sad without falling apart. You can feel nervous without shrinking. That balance is built through discipline. Practice this in daily life. When someone interrupts you, pause before replying. When plans change last minute, choose composure. When someone criticizes you, take a moment to think instead of snapping back. Each of these moments is training. It's how your presence is shaped over time, not through big speeches, but through small moments of control. As your self-control grows, your influence grows. People listen more. They follow your lead without needing to be told. They trust you with important conversation, not because you demand it, but because your presence earns it. You've shown them you're not moved by impulse. You think before you act. You speak with purpose. You respond with balance. Presence is not something you turn on for the stage. It's something you carry into every interaction. The way you treat the person serving your food, the way you handle interruptions, the way you sit in a meeting, those are the real tests. And when you pass those tests consistently, people begin to view you differently. You're not just another voice. You're someone who can be counted on. Discipline doesn't limit you. It frees you. It removes the noise, the confusion, the regret that comes from careless words or impulsive choices. It gives you space to think clearly and act wisely. And that clarity is what creates presence, not force, not image. Clarity. Build that presence through your choices, through your stillness, through your consistency. Over time, it becomes who you are, not a performance, but a habit. And when your presence is built on disciplined self-control, it doesn't fade when pressure shows up. It gets stronger. It holds steady. It becomes the reason people listen when you speak and remember how they felt long after you've left the room.
Chapter 9. Communicate beliefs without forcing agreement. Sharing what you believe doesn't mean trying to win. It means standing strong in your truth without stepping on someone else's. The goal of communication is not control, it's clarity. You don't need to convince anyone to agree with you to be effective. What matters most is that your message is honest, thoughtful, and steady. People don't respond well to pressure. They respond to presence,
to certainty, to calmness. When you speak your beliefs with respect, you create space for real connection, not conflict. Many people speak with a need to be right. They turn conversations into debates. They talk over others. They argue from emotion. But influence doesn't grow from that. People shut down when they feel pushed. They resist when they feel cornered. Real influence is quiet. It comes from being able to express what you stand for without needing the other person to give in. It's about sharing, not selling. When you communicate your beliefs, the goal is not to win approval. The goal is to be understood, to express what matters to you clearly and without apology. That means you don't hide your truth, but you also don't force it on others. You speak from a place of calm certainty, not emotional urgency. And that calmness is what gives your message strength. You can believe something deeply and still respect someone who sees the world differently. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's what opens minds. People are more likely to listen when they don't feel judged. If you come into a conversation with the attitude of "you must agree with me," they'll put up walls. But if you come with the mindset of "I want you to understand where I stand," they'll hear you better, even if they don't agree. The key is tone. Your tone sends a message long before your words do. If your tone is defensive or aggressive, people will feel unsafe. But if your tone is thoughtful and clear, they'll feel respected. They'll lean in instead of pulling away. You don't have to raise your voice to be powerful. You don't have to repeat yourself to be heard. You just need to be honest, focused, and open to the conversation, not just the conclusion. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "This is what I believe, and I respect that you see it differently." That one sentence can shift the whole dynamic. It tells the other person that your identity isn't tied to their agreement. It tells them you can handle disagreement without losing control. That's strength. That's confidence. And that's what makes people trust you, even if they don't share your point of view. Beliefs aren't always about facts. They're often built from life experience, values, culture, and emotion. So when you communicate what you believe, speak from your experience. Use real language. Talk like a human being, not like a preacher or a professor. Don't try to sound like you've got it all figured out. Just be sincere. That's what people respond to. You don't need big words or perfect lines. You need presence. You need to show that you've thought about what you're saying and that you've lived it. That makes your words carry more weight than any clever argument ever could. People can feel when your message comes from a place of depth. They can tell when it's more than just opinion. It's a part of who you are. And remember, you don't have to answer every challenge. You don't have to defend yourself every time someone disagrees. Silence can be powerful. Listening can be even more powerful. Sometimes the best way to show strength is to let someone else speak without interrupting. Let them share what they believe. Let them finish their sentence. Let them feel heard. That's not giving up your ground. That's choosing to connect before you correct. You also don't have to prove anything. Your beliefs are yours. They've been shaped by your life, your experiences, your lessons. You can share them without explanation, without pressure, and without fear. When someone asks why you believe what you do, you can explain calmly, but you never need to convince anyone. Let your life speak for itself. Let your consistency speak louder than your opinions. Sometimes people will push you. They'll challenge your beliefs directly. And when that happens, breathe. Stay grounded. Don't let their energy control yours. You don't have to match their intensity. You don't have to change your pace. You don't have to win. You just have to stay aligned with what you know is true for you. That alignment is stronger than any argument. Communicating beliefs is also about timing. Not every moment is the right one to speak. Sometimes it's better to wait, to read the room, to sense the energy of the other person. If someone's upset, closed off, or distracted, your message won't land. But if you wait for the right moment, when there's openness, when there's attention, when there's mutual respect, it has a much greater chance of being received. And don't underestimate the power of questions. Instead of always stating what you believe, ask others what they believe. Ask them why. Ask them how they came to their view. When people feel that you care about their perspective, they become more open to yours. That's how real conversations begin. That's how understanding grows. You don't need to change someone's mind to make an impact. You just need to speak with clarity, with care, and without attachment to the outcome. That kind of communication doesn't just inform, it transforms. It builds trust. It opens doors. It strengthens relationships. Not because everyone agrees, but because people feel respected, even in disagreement. This way of communicating requires emotional maturity. It requires discipline. It requires patience, but the rewards are worth it. You walk away from conversations with your integrity intact. You keep your peace, and over time, people come to see you as someone who stands firm, without pushing others down. Someone who speaks with strength and humility. And that's rare. Most people are either loud and forceful, or silent and disconnected. But you can be something different. You can be calm and bold at the same time. You can be clear without being harsh. You can be passionate without being pushy. That balance makes your voice meaningful. So keep speaking your truth. Keep standing by your values. But do it with grace. Do it with self-control. Do it with the kind of presence that people respect, even if they don't agree. Because when you communicate from that place, you're not just sharing beliefs. You're building character. You're building influence. And you're building the kind of communication that lasts. Chapter 10. Practice mental verbal influence every day. Influence is not a gift. It's a habit. The way you think and the way you speak are not fixed traits. They are skills. Skills that grow stronger with daily effort. If you want to shape minds, guide decisions, and leave an impact on people's lives, you must train both your thoughts and your words like you would train your body. Not once in a while, not just when it's easy, but every single day. Mental and verbal influence is not something you turn on when you need it. It's something you build into who you are. You begin with how you think. The way you think sets the tone for the way you speak. If your thoughts are messy, your words will reflect that. If your mind is calm and focused, your communication becomes clear and powerful. Every day, ask yourself better questions. What do I believe about myself? What story am I repeating that limits me? What thoughts are shaping my tone before I even speak? The more awareness you bring to your thinking, the more influence you gain over your communication. And the more influence you gain over yourself, the more natural it becomes to influence others. Mental influence begins with discipline. You cannot allow every thought to lead your attention. You must decide what deserves your focus. You must stop letting old doubts take the wheel. You must stop arguing for your limits. Instead, practice thinking thoughts that support your growth. Speak to yourself with the same clarity and intention you want others to feel when they speak to you. If your inner voice is filled with fear, guilt, or excuses, your outer voice will carry that energy. But if your inner voice is focused, encouraging, and steady, your outer words will feel stronger and more direct. Each morning is an opportunity to shape your influence. The first few minutes of your day train your mind more than most people realize. Do you begin the day by reacting to noise and distractions, or do you set the tone with clear thought? A few moments of focus in the morning can change the way you lead a meeting, handle pressure, or guide a conversation later in the day. The habits of your mind create the foundation of your speech, and your speech shapes how others experience you. Verbal influence comes from clarity, not volume. People don't follow someone just because they talk more. They follow those whose words bring meaning, whose presence makes them feel something. Every day, you have chances to practice this. When you respond to a message, when you give an opinion, when you share an idea, each time is a chance to speak with purpose. Don't waste those moments by talking on autopilot. Slow down. Ask yourself, what do I want this message to do? Your words are tools. Use them to build something. You don't need a crowd to practice influence. You can practice in one-on-one conversations. You can practice in how you speak to your family, your friends, your team, even strangers. Speak with intention. Say what you mean. Say it with strength. Speak in a way that reflects your thinking clearly. Don't over-explain. Don't shrink your message, and don't speak just to fill the silence. Every word can have power if it comes from a grounded place. Influence is not about dominating others. It's about helping people feel more focused, more clear, and more motivated after they interact with you. If people feel more confused or more pressured after hearing you, you're not influencing, you're just reacting. Real influence, you're just reacting. Real influence brings direction. It brings energy. It gives others something to think about long after the words are gone. That kind of influence is trained, not gifted. It's trained every time you resist the urge to speak too quickly. It's trained every time you pause to choose better words. It's trained every time you decide to stay calm under pressure. It's trained when you decide to make your message about progress instead of personal ego. And it's trained when you decide to speak with honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. One of the most important parts of daily influence is repetition. You don't get better by doing something once. You get better by doing it over and over again with intention. Practice speaking about your values. Practice explaining your ideas clearly. Practice giving feedback with respect. Practice asking better questions. Practice managing your tone. The more you repeat these actions, the more natural they become, and the more they become part of you. Influence also depends on consistency. You can't be powerful one day and careless the next. You can't speak with clarity at work and then carry chaos into your home. If you want your influence to last, your message must be stable. People learn who you are by watching how you speak over time. When your words are grounded in truth and your tone is steady, they begin to trust you. And trust is the fuel of influence. You don't need fancy language to be effective. You need real language. Use words that people understand. Speak in a way that feels human. Let your tone match your intention. Be direct, but not harsh. Be clear, but not cold. Be honest, but not careless. The balance between those things is where influence lives. Each night, reflect on how you used your voice. Where did you speak well? Where did you lose control? Where could you have been more focused or more calm? Reflection is part of the training. Without it, you just repeat old habits. With it, you grow sharper, stronger, and more aware. That awareness helps you walk into the next day with more control and more presence. Mental and verbal influence are not separate. They support each other. When you train your mind, your words improve. When you improve your words, your mind becomes clearer. That loop creates momentum. You begin to carry yourself differently. You start to show up in conversations with more clarity and confidence. People begin to notice. They listen longer. They ask for your thoughts. They respect your time. Not because you asked for it, but because your words started to carry weight. You don't need a big platform to practice influence. You just need the willingness to take it seriously. Every interaction is a chance to grow. Every moment is a test of your awareness. Every response is a signal of your mindset. This is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about choosing to lead yourself every day, through how you think, through how you speak, and through how you show up. Start where you are. Take one small moment today and use it differently. Choose your words more carefully. Guide your thoughts more consciously. Respond to pressure with calm, not noise. That small decision starts the shift. And with time, it becomes a habit. That habit becomes your style. That style becomes your identity. And one day, you'll look around and realize your voice matters. Not because you forced it, but because you trained it. You practiced it. You earned it. Every single day.